Hi, I'm Sarah Gonzalez. Welcome to the news and why it matters.
Yes.
Glenn, top story.
The 12th Imam, he's back in the news.
So.
I kind of assumed that the debt had gone away as a problem, but apparently no.
Okay.
I'm going to talk about the attitude of our society now.
All right.
You're such a downer.
Coalition building to strike Syria, but what does that mean?
Okay. So the 12th Imam,
Yeah.
why does this matter?
Okay, so it doesn't matter to anybody who hasn't been watching me for the last 10, 15 years. If you don't know who the 12th Imam is, you're well, we're all kind of screwed one way or another. But
Yeah, if you missed the first 11,
I know. You're like,
I don't care about them. I don't even get it.
So the 12th Imam, it doesn't matter if you believe this or not. You just have to understand that the people in Iran do believe this, the people who are running the country. The 12th Imam is kind of our bad guy in the book of Revelation. He washes the world in blood. He makes everybody bow. If you don't, he cuts off your head. It's...
Seems like a good guy.
Yeah, and it's all there. It's really like you read their end time stuff and you compare it to the book of Revelation, and it's the negative copy of it. It's like they wrote it intentionally to freak us all out. So the 12th Imam has been rumored to be coming, and I think it was about, 6 or 8 months ago, they said that the 12th Imam was back and wandering around within society. Yesterday, the phone call came in to Benjamin Netanyahu from Vladimir Putin, and he said, you gotta not back the coalition. Don't help them bomb Syria. And Netanyahu said, I don't think so, because you're in with Iran, and we're not going to let you surround us. Well, that was interesting for him to say, because what the head of the Revolutionary Guard from Iran said was, and I'm paraphrasing, we are just about complete in our surrounding. Do you have the...
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. So the regional developments are creating the groundwork for the arrival of the Imam of time. We're currently busy completing the encirclement of Israel, and soon we'll pray in the Dome of the Rock. That's significant. Even if you don't believe it, they are on a holy war. And the 12th Imam, when they say we're going to hasten the return of the Promised One, the way to do that is to slaughter all of the Jews and wash the world in blood. That's when the Imam comes back to the Dome of the Rock. It's trouble. And, for anybody who thought maybe this could just be a strike and we could just all move on from it, this has the makings of real and, dare I say it, biblical trouble, because remember, Gog and Magog, they're going to come together in the last days, and when they do, it's all trouble. Gog and Magog is Russia and Iran.
Yeah, you mentioned that, we don't have people, a lot of people don't even have never heard of this, they don't even believe it. But you better believe, Iranians, they definitely believe this.
It doesn't matter.
And you know who else believes this? Jews, they believe this. People in Israel know this as a fact. Yes. It's not even just a geopolitical fact that Iran's pursuing on their country. They are there at their doorstep because this is what they want to do. And it's not even a secret. Like this guy, he said this in an open forum. Right. Like everyone knows this is what they're all about.
Everyone knows. And the West is completely turning a blind eye to it. And it is as foolish as saying, I wrote a tweet today to the New York Times because they just launched their Caliphate podcast. And I wrote a tweet. That's not possible. That's the ravings of a lunatic mind. It couldn't have happened. Are they paying attention to the 12th Imam now? The answer is no. You have to. We don't believe that you get 72 virgins if you blow yourself up, but they do.
Every once in a while, you hear in the news that Israel struck somewhere inside Syria and killed some Iranians. You hear that they're attacking on the Golan Heights because they saw some Iranians are there. You can put that into context now. Now that you know about this, every time you hear that, that's exactly what they're defending against.
Yes,
because that is the next big war that's going to happen.
And Putin just called Netanyahu and asked him to stay out of the coalition in Syria, and they said, no.
Yeah.
You've got the Iranians there. We're not staying out of it.
And you also have the Palestinians and their uprising on the border, which I think is a precursor to what's going to be happening on our border. But they have those guys. And that's why when this Iranian says, we're almost have them encircled, well, Syria and Golan Heights, that's the north and the west.
Yeah.
This is the south and the east or the other way around.
Stu, deficit, debt, why does it even matter, really?
I don't know that it does. I just want to point out that we started the show with Glenn telling Pat he was a downer.
Yeah, that's
and then we're world washed in blood in like 15 seconds.
But you enjoyed it.
I did.
You enjoyed it.
This is a
we
didn't
didn't get to organ harvesting, though.
No, we didn't.
At least it was happy enough.
We have about 18 minutes left.
The new report came out on the debt. And we all love tax cuts. We're fans of tax cuts. However, tax cuts combined with massive increases in spending is not necessarily, it's not the best combo. It's not peanut butter and jelly. They don't work that well together. The newest report says that we're going to be over $1 trillion in deficit next year. We're going to be, the next 10 years, $13 trillion added to the debt. We are going to hit levels.
So you know, if I'm not mistaken, I read this report on, I think it was the CBO. They're always wrong.
Yeah.
On the other side, they're always like, oh, it's going to cost us $5, and it's $15 billion.
Well, yeah, and they pretty much know this. I mean, do we have the first chart here? This is the chart showing the federal debt as a percentage of GDP, which will rise as high as anything except for World War II. Now, you may remember, we actually had a pretty good reason to go into debt in World War II. He had a really stupid-looking mustache, and he was yelling a lot on stage.
And we just built we did the Manhattan Project.
The Manhattan Project. What are we doing now? It's scary, and this is based on the CBO's estimates, which is on normal offerings, which is does not include any emergency spending or any new programs, like, for example, $1 trillion in infrastructure, and no war spending. So we already know that this is completely wrong and outdated. And what is our government supposed to do? Our government is supposed to, let's say, number one thing is defense, right? Look at the chart here where this is shocking to me. Well, it's not shocking, but you know it. Defense used to be our biggest line item, right? The blue line, and you see that decreasing and decreasing and decreasing.
Down the bottom.
Now it's the bottom.
Wow.
And we're putting on the other side of it, it's Social Security, it's health entitlements, it's all of these locked-in spending programs that are growing out of control.
Look at that.
And, you know, it is, now we're looking at the interest, which is now going to be, within a decade, our biggest expense. Interest on debt. We get nothing out of it, and it's our biggest expense.
Wait. But here's the good news.
Oh, okay.
Our interest currently is at record lows.
Yeah.
You start to hit the Fed and everybody else, the rest of the world starts to raise those interest rates. Our interest rates go up to 8%. I bought a house. I have a 2 or 3% interest rate. I don't know if I can afford my house at 8%, 10%. That's what's going to happen to the entire country. You take this debt off of a 2% interest rate and move it to a 10, 12, 18%, you're toast.
And once again, the report is based on interest rates staying relatively low. Not, you know, and is that going to happen?
In whose world is that?
Right. I mean, we know they're going to go up from here. There have been historic lows for so long. Point is, we talk about this stuff every day, and because, I don't know if it's because we have a Republican Senate and a Republican House and a Republican presidency, are we supposed to forget about this? We talked about it for years and years and years, and it's getting much, much worse.
Can I ask you guys a question? I got an email from somebody, and they said, who do you think is going to be speaker? And so we went back and forth. We were talking about it. And
how many times did you type "I don't care" in there?
That was my first response.
All right, good.
Yeah, and he wrote back and went, "Okay, pretend you do." But we were going back and forth, and the names that were generated, because I started opening it up to a few people, were Freedom Caucus guys. Some of the Freedom Caucus guys, and I thought, these guys are not going to be able to survive. Look at this. All of the big spenders, all of the big GOP, they come in, they spend like rats. They jump off the ship because they know it's about to fold. And then they leave the Freedom Caucus to sit here and say, wait a minute, hang on. Okay, we need to be reasonable, which will be the most unpopular thing if we hit troubled times. And we'll sit here and it will look like constitutional conservatives are the Antichrist. Or the 13th Imam.
Nice.
That's going to organ harvest all of it.
There we go. It's organ.
Tie it all together. Nice little bow. Pat, you wanted to talk about the disintegration of society.
Yeah. Let's take a look at this clip from The View yesterday and see if you can tell me what's wrong with this.
And if he does fire Mueller, I've said, Lindsey Graham has said it's political suicide. Yeah. I 100% think there would be, I think there would actually be rioting in Washington, D.C. I think it would be at levels we haven't seen.
I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, but I think it would take levels that we can't comprehend since the Nixon era.
Okay.
What's wrong with it, may I?
Yes.
It's the view.
Yes. Well, in part.
Yeah.
Secondly, we all understand Whoopi Goldberg's ideology, and for her to say that would be really fun to watch a riot in Washington, D.C., but what really troubled me was the audience response to it. Yeah. Yeah, a riot! Let's break things and kill people! Let's burn cop cars! Let's crack somebody's skull wide open! That's so fun!
So today we started the show, my radio show, with something it was in the Republic that was saying it's time to split. It's time. We're worse off now than the Civil War, because that was really about one or two issues. Yeah, this is about everything.
Right. We're divided on everything. On everything.
And I went through the Declaration of Independence for 40 minutes this morning, and actually kind of made it interesting, I hope. But we're in trouble. You don't break things. This is hard to put back together, and I don't hear anyone articulating what we do find self-evident.
When people are cheering other people getting beaten and dragged through the streets and cars and buildings set on fire and looting and all those kinds of things that we see when there's a riot, and you think that'd be fun?
Listen.
Wow, we got a problem.
Whoopi Goldberg
got a problem.
Remember I made this prediction. I said there's going to come a time when they're going to come and they're going to drag you people out of the street, me included. They'll drag you out of that chair because you're part of the problem.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you're left or right. In a bad breakdown situation, those people and all of us are dragged out into the street.
And you're not going to think that's fun when it happens.
No.
I read that same article, I think, that you were talking about, and I thought it was a joke at first, like dark humor.
Dead serious.
He was dead serious. He was like, we have lost the cultural war. We are more culturally and politically polarized than we've ever been. And he was like, we're not going back. So either we look at actually like seriously splitting the country up, dead serious, and he had these lines drawn that looked like North and South Civil War era. Or he goes, and if you mock this, just wait till the civil unrest hits your city because it's coming.
Yeah.
It was chilling.
Well, this has been a really uplifting segment so far. Let's take a break and see what's to come next.
A sure sign of society disintegrating is that the view is
All right, Jason, we have talked a lot about Syria in these recent days. So why does it matter today?
So progressing. So now the evidence is starting to come out. They haven't released all of it yet, but the U.S. has said that we've got blood and urine samples from actual bodies that were on the ground, and they verified that chlorine and some other nerve agent was involved. Theresa May at the UK said, yes, we've verified the same thing. We are now on board with a military strike. and France has said the same thing. So we know the military plans are there. They're just waiting to do it. Why it matters now, I think, and it's different from a year ago when we just responded with about 59 cruise missiles. It was easy, it was quick, we did it, proportional response, it was done. Now we're seeing a coalition, which pretty much means that it's going to be an escalation of what happened before. They can't just do what they did last time because it didn't do anything. It didn't deter anything. They were using that airfield that they bombed literally the same day after we bombed it. Didn't do anything. So the only thing, what they're looking at now is, and the people that are talking to Trump are saying, we've got to go in and mean it this time. Now, think about what that means. Are they talking about regime change? What's really going to mean it? Because just bombing a few facilities and a couple airfields won't do a thing. Didn't do anything last time. It's not going to be doing anything this time. Is he doing this without congressional approval? Because that's a big no-no. If it's escalating that far, this has to go to a vote, in my opinion. We can't just go off and do this. I don't want to.
I'm telling you, I don't know when it's going to come, but it's going to feel like this when it does come. There's going to be one of those things that everybody's like, oh, it's no big deal. Read history of World War II. In Germany, in the Weimar Republic, their diaries, I am weird enough to read people's diaries that are dead, and in their diaries, they all said, we didn't know. We had no idea. We had never heard of the word hyperinflation before. In 4 weeks' time, that's the only thing anyone's talking about. And it's going to happen again here. All of these things that we've been warning about, it's just going to take the entire world, or at least our country, by surprise. This is a significant move.
I do want to also talk about, Jason, we had talked earlier, Trump is now rethinking his decision about TPP. He's having some second thoughts. He wants his people to look into maybe rejoining that. So.
What?
Well, it sounds confusing because it is, because he keeps changing his mind.
So Ben Sass actually said that he heard that Kudlow, and who's the trade representative?
You're right. Starts with an L. I can't think of the name.
I can't remember his name. But Trump specifically told the two of them, said because of
in front of Sass,
that he didn't know what to do about how the farmers were going to get hit by the tariffs. So he thought his way around that was to go back in and get on board with the TPP. And he said, "quote," according to Sass, "get on it, make it happen."
Oh, man.
So we've gone from, literally just a few years ago, the TPP was the worst thing in the world, compared to it.
He campaigned on that.
Stop it. Stop the trade war. You want to know how the farmers can survive? Stop the trade war.
Yeah. But I would like to make a list of all of the things that he's flip-flopped on now.
Good luck.
I don't think we have enough time.
But just to let you know that the TPP, mass trade conglomerate similar to the EU, they've actually there's a whole host of things that are wrong with it. But one of the big things, though, there's actually a corporate outside court system that can overrule U.S. sovereign law.
Yeah, that's right.
Overrule.
It's a corporate court. It's not done by elected. It's corporations.
Yeah. What do you think his base is going to think about this?
Oh, they're going to be livid. This is globalism. This is the height of globalism.
Do you think they will be livid?
No.
Nope.
I don't.
No, they won't.
I don't either. Look, I'm a big free trade guy, and look, there are problems with the TPP. There are. He's talks about being such a good negotiator. I'd love to see him go in there and knock out some of those bad problems with it, because being able to trade with these countries helps us if we can do it the right way.
You're not going to do it the right way. You're not going to get rid of the corporate court.
And we already trade with all the countries that are in the TPP. We already have trade agreements with them. We don't need to assemble this massive organization that governs it all. Just approach every single country individually. And free trade with them if you want, but that's the way to do it.
Stu, I have a question for you. Do you love parks?
I do.
Do you?
And I'm glad you got to this, because this is really the most important story of the day. Important new polling coming out of Canada, in which they polled 3,000 Canadian citizens to ask them if they enjoyed parks. Now, this is an important government-sponsored poll, and they were able to get a pretty good result out of it. 94% of people said they liked parks. Now,
shock poll.
Yeah, it's a shock poll.
Do you like air?
Was this Rasmussen? I don't
know. No. It's okay to be skeptical about it because it's very high. However, you might be feel a little bit better about it when I tell you that it's not just average Canadian citizens they polled. They polled people who visited parks. So you're polling people who go to parks and ask them if they like parks.
So 6% of the people, though.
No, well, 5%. 5%.
I'm going against my will.
I don't want to go, but okay.
5%.
That's usually the way I go to parks.
Yeah, no, that's true. 5% thought they were just okay.
Average.
And then 1% said they did not like parks, which is amazing. And the good thing is, it only cost the Canadian government $150,000.
Oh, that's not bad.
To find out that 94% of people that go to parks like parks.
Hey, do we have time to talk about what's happened with Bank of America?
Yes.
Okay. Are you familiar with what happened to Bank of America yesterday? They came out and said, we are 100% full stop on lending money to any gun maker that makes warlike weapons.
Military style.
Military style. Yeah. What is that? I told you 3 weeks ago.
Well, anything that looks scary, right? You got to get rid of the scary looking things.
Told you 3 weeks ago. Citibank was doing it first.
Yeah.
I said, look, it's going to start rolling down the hill. Bank of America, there are only 5 banks. I think there's only 4 real big commercial banks. Then you go into Goldman Sachs. If they cut off the funding and financial services for gun makers, gun sellers, and gun buyers, you have no Second Amendment.
You've done an end run around it.
And they just both boards just decided out of the blue sky, you know what we should do? Somebody's behind this.
Got to be a pressure group.
There's a pressure group behind this somewhere.
Yeah, for sure. Pat?
Yes.
Louisiana State Senate?
Yes. They took an interesting step the other day when they voted to make bestiality illegal. Apparently, there were some loopholes in the law that allowed some sex with animals, animal-human relations.
The current definition.
But the vote passed by 25 to 10. Who were the 10? Or the I don't want to take all my options off the table. What if I see a really nice-looking sheep? Why then, I don't want to be breaking the law.
I bet those 10 were the ones that like parks.
Isn't this the perfect state for this story to have come from?
Yeah.
Louisiana.
Yes.
Now, I will say that I think that their argument, they were all Republican, by the way, and I think that their argument was, there's already a law on the books. We don't need to be wasting our time doing this. But do you really want the optics of, is it really worth the optics of voting against this bill?
It is not. And the reason they had the bill in the first place was because there was a loophole. There was the law, but there was a loophole in it.
Did they have a problem with that loophole?
They did say that there's a large-scale problem with people seeking this kind of thing.
And
Louisiana. It's Louisiana. What are they, with alligators? What?
I don't know. We don't have an answer.
Well, I don't know. We were wrestling there in the mud, and all of a sudden I started feeling.
Hey.
All right, we got to take a break. Stay with us.
A Blaze PSA, not with alligators, guys. You want to try other ones?
Okay, pop quiz. States that the gun industry benefits the most in. What would you guess if you were to guess the number one?
I would say Connecticut.
That's what I was going to say, too.
Really?
It benefits the most? What does that mean?
The gun industry benefits the most in these states.
Oh,
they're the top states. No,
I
they're the
thought
top states for the gun industry.
For gun sales?
The gun industry. Texas?
Montana.
Okay, you said Texas, Montana?
Utah?
Okay.
It's not working out for you, is
No,
it?
number 1 is Alabama, but California was number 14 and Texas was 16.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, I wonder what the measure is. That's an interesting.
Because I think Connecticut has a lot, or used to have a lot of jobs.
Really?
And New Jersey.
Well, they said that it included gun jobs, the qualifiers, gun jobs, state friendliness to the manufacturers.
Wow. California was even on this list?
I know.
It should have been like 75th.
Gun culture, and then other small factors like whether states are right to work and stuff like that. But isn't that bizarre?
It's interesting. I mean, and
California over Texas.
There's a big split in California with like really like the conservatives that are there tend to be very conservative. So maybe that's the reasoning.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
But I've lived in LA. There's more police officers and law enforcement there than there are actual citizens.
All right, we gotta go. It's National Grilled Cheese Day.
Yes.
Get you one.
Yeah.
Holocaust remembrance.
See you guys
Day.
Monday.
That was yesterday.